Sammie Nicole here,
And I'm FeeFee.
and this is the Sammie Nicole and FeeFee show, where we give you the millennial and Generation X experience and perspective on life, love, and relationships. So for tonight's show, we're gonna be doing a Black Panther movie review. So, Mom, what you think about it?
I love Black Panther. I think that there was a lot of messages throughout the whole movie. I think that it really showed young millennials that the way things were done back in a time where you show respect to your elders and you didn't go off your emotions. You show respect to your ancestors. I really like that part where they tapped into their ancestors. What did you think about that part when they asked for their ancestors for help?
I think that was a great part. And it seemed like the ancestors were pretty much, passing the torch down to the younger generation. So I thought it was a really good movie and how they kind of did that tie-in with the older generation and the younger generation and keeping the traditions going, but also trying to make a spin and letting the younger and newer generation kind of have their own take on traditions as well.
And I know you mentioned that the movie had a message about African Americans now and Africans.
Yes, I definitely thought it was very interesting. It seemed like the ones who were still living in Wakanda, so the Africans, like they had a more closer tie to their traditions, to their, family ideologies and beliefs, whereas the newer generation, like Killmonger, he seemed to represent more of like the African Americans, where a lot of us believe that we come from Africa, but we still don't always have direct ties to the motherland, if it makes sense, like the traditions or what tribes we may have
he
stemmed
felt
from.
like they were living the life in Wakanda, and that African Americans here
were struggling
here
out in
America,
the rest of the world,
right?
But they were living in this lap of luxury and like a fairy tale in Wakanda, and then the 2+ billion Africans or people of the African diaspora were like struggling and dealing with the aftermath of their countries being colonized, so they were still trying to fight their oppressors and really experience freedom, whereas in Wakanda they were miles ahead of that in every aspect, technology, just life in general. They weren't dealing with the same struggles that other people who looked like them within the world.
Right. And one thing that I liked about the movie is it actually showed us who we really are. We are kings and queens, and a lot of millennials, you guys don't realize that we are kings and queens. We come from kings and queens, and I like that the movie.
But a lot of us aren't taught that. Right. So it's kind of hard for you to. Yes, it makes sense for you to say, a lot of us don't know. We're kings and queens, but we haven't been taught that. A lot of our parents haven't really sat down and talked to us about that. They haven't educated us on that. But not from an African standpoint. No, we say in general, and it's not to shoot down the Generation X parents, but it's not like they're a lot of them, or at least in my opinion, I don't think majority of them are sitting down and talking about you come from kings and queens. Because if that was the case, then more of us millennials would know about that.
And I like the symbolism in the movies. If you notice that there was a lot of purple. There was a lot
royalty.
Of royalty. There was a lot of purple, and there was. Why do you think that we like to overdo our jewelry? We like to garb ourselves with jewelry.
Adorn ourselves with jewelry.
Adorn ourselves with jewelry.
And I like how they represent the different tribes in Africa, on the continent of Africa. If you're looking at Killmonger's, I think the markings on his body is similar to a tribe in Africa, that the warriors have on their bodies, or something. I read something about that. Or if you looked at one of the men who led the tribe, he had like almost kind of like a gauge, but in his mouth. I'm not sure of the proper term, so don't talk about me too bad, guys. But it was just really cool to see how they took different symbolisms and actual things stemming from the continent of Africa that reflect some of the different tribes on the continent. I thought that was really cool how they incorporated that.
How they incorporated everything, and how it displayed the young people with the symbolisms, and to let you millennials know that, you know, this is where you come from. This is how your ancestors lived, and that you are kings and queens and descendants, right, of kings and queens. And so you guys need to act like you come from kings and queens.
So what does that mean? Expound upon act like you come from kings and queens. What does that mean when you say that?
The way you carry yourself, your demeanor, the way you act, the way you communicate, the way you control your emotions, your anger. If you notice that, what was the young man's name? Killmonger. That was the one that actually was the king, right? Not the cousin.
The cousin was Killmonger.
What was
T'Challa was the one that was crowned the king.
Okay.
Girl, get your stuff together, girl.
Okay.
She don't know who she, the cousin.
Not the cousin.
The brother. She don't know.
The big cousin.
The big cousin.
That's the big cousin.
Killmonger is the cousin that was like, hey, auntie.
Okay.
T'Challa is
T'Challa. That's the one.
Yes,
Did you
Black
notice
Panther.
the two demeanors between the two? One was hostile and real confrontational.
Well, rightfully so, though. You know, rightfully so. You know, if you look at some of our ancestors, some, not all, have been passive, and it's like, where has it gotten us? It's gotten us nowhere. And so I can understand Killmonger's frustration and aggressiveness.
But you don't always have to be so aggressive.
And that gung-ho attitude comes from, because, you know, we've been playing it cool and passive for so long, and yet we're still dealing with oppression. No matter how calm and peaceful and nonviolent we are, it's still, you know, oppression is still violence towards us. Right, you know, where has the passivity gotten us? We're still in the same exact place. And our oppressors, they have not been passive towards us.
But still, that doesn't mean that you have to be so aggressive. You can handle
in some
things,
cases, you do have to be aggressive.
No, because sometimes that
yes. In some cases, you do.
In some cases, but sometimes you can communicate more calmly, and you don't have to be so forceful. I think he was just forceful.
He had went through a lot in his life.
Here, and I'm gonna be the king. He had been through so much, but I think
traumatized.
I think they would have accepted him with loving arms if he wouldn't have been so aggressive. And that's what you millennials need to understand, is that you don't always have to go into a situation so aggressive. You never know how you will be taken if you are just more calm and speak softly and kindly. Everything is not a fight. Everything is not a fight. So I think that the two different demeanors, I kind of like the way they show that. They show that in Africa, the upbringing and the demeanor was different from African Americans,
such as Killmonger.
Right.
How he grew
There was
up.
a difference. So why do you think it was a difference?
Because there was a difference in family structure.
You
know, the father was in T'Challa's life. He had the mother and the father. Whereas with Killmonger, you know, his father died when he was a boy. So that his family dynamic changed completely.
Yeah. So that made him kind of hostile.
And rightfully so, and
Right,
angry.
Yeah.
And
And
had different life experiences.
and that happens a lot with our young black males. You think that's what we experience now. So I think that was another good message, too, in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
With young black African American males.
Okay.
Not having the two-parent home and just having that animosity. And I think that's what he had. He had a lot of hurt and animosity because they took his dad away.
Right.
So that's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that in the movie. And it was just a beautiful movie. And like I said, that the costumes were beautiful.
Yes, I like how they had, the black women, like, into the princess, how she was into science and technology, and she pretty much was, like, the brains behind everything, the entire, nation. I also like the all women army that they had. It, the general, it showed how, she could be resilient and strong and a warrior, but she could also be soft and sweet with her man, who she almost had to kill. So she had to tell him to stand down. He was like, "Babe, you gonna kill me for Wakanda?" She was like, yes. Do not play. I will. So yeah,
standing up for what she thought
was right,
and she believed in, and that was another good point they made in
she
the
was
movie.
Still strong, but she was still soft, and able to express her love for her boo, but she had to let him know, like, no,
I'll take you down.
I'll take you down if need be.
Yeah, I picked up.
And I like how the women warriors, they led the front, and the men, the male army, they were kind of behind them.
Yeah.
So
it pretty much cool. Showed a lot of black girl power. Black girl, what you call it?
Magic.
Yeah, magic. I kind of like that. Yeah, they did have the women fighting on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a great movie. I think it was everything.
I thought Angela Bassett was regal and just class, elegance, just beautiful. I love how they touched on the ancestor part, when we pass and transition, out of the physical realm, and just how your ancestors are always with you. Right. Your loved ones are always with you in spirit. I thought that was cool how they tied in the spirituality aspect of it as well.
Yeah, it was just a beautiful movie. I like the part where at the end, when the boys were on the basketball,
when they were back in Oakland,
and the little boys were on the basketball court, and they and then the older cousin, what's his name?
T'Challa. King T'Challa.
He bought
Get your characters together, girl.
He bought all the buildings. Whatever. He bought all the buildings, and he said he was going to make it into
a science center, and also outreach center as well for the community.
So that was awesome, how it showed that we actually do come back to our community
and invest in versus
them.
Getting out the community and saying, what the hell with y'all, peace, I'm out.
Right. So it was like each one reach one. So
right.
he went
each one teach one, something like that.
Yeah. He actually went back to help his community. So I thought that was another good point that they made, another good message in the movie. So I really enjoyed it. I think that it was just everything.
Yes, and they was looking like some snacks too. Yeah. Especially that Michael B. Jordan. He fine, y'all.
Yes, he is. Michael B. Jordan is a nice looking young man.
Okay.
Yes.
And the Jabari tribe.
Yes.
Jabari tribe was looking right too.
And
now.
Another thing that I like, I like that they showed that the two young men, the king from the other tribe, Jabari tribe, they show that there's not always conflict with young black men. Young black men
can come together for greater good.
Right, they can come together. And a brotherhood for greater good. There's not always strife all the time. And I like that they showed that in the movie too. I think that was a good thing for young black men to see, that they actually came together. So that was another good thing that I like. What else did you like?
Yeah, the costumes. I like how beautiful and vibrant the people were.